serious headwinds. There are spending hawks in their party who do not like the price tag of this bill, the fact that it adds an estimated $3.3 trillion to the national debt, $1 trillion more than the House version of this bill did. Serious Senate rewrites are not going over well, going over like a lead balloon with some Republican fiscal hawks in the House. I asked Lindsey Graham, who was the Sherpa of this budget process in the Senate, what he thinks about his bill's chances in the House. Here's what he said.
Is there a chance, Senator, you'll have to go back to the drawing board here because this can't get through the House?
Well, I hope not. So time will tell.
Time will tell indeed. Kira Johnson trying to move this to a vote as soon as tomorrow, potentially Thursday. He's got his work cut out for him.
Yes. Well, then, Kira, that takes it to you and the timeline. What's the White House saying? What do we think? Will this all be wrapped up by July 4th?
That's what the president wanted. That was the deadline he set for lawmakers. But Kira, earlier this morning, he told our Rachel Scott that while he would love to see this all done by July 4th, he wasn't sure it was going to get done by July 4th and indicated that that would be okay if it got done around that time period. That is not, of course, a date certain. If it does move into the weekend or next week, it still could get done, and it doesn't mean something happens to the bill if they miss that self-imposed artificial deadline. The president was very happy, of course, that the Senate passed this today. He is down in Florida traveling to a new detention facility and was asking reporters every time he saw them as they were on a tour, have they passed the bill? Have they passed the bill? He was getting real-time updates from reporters. He called it a great bill, and he told our Mary Bruce that he thinks it will now have an easier time in the House getting passed. But for everything Jay just laid out there, it certainly could be a potential slog over the next couple of days. The president was asked earlier today about those Republicans in the Senate that were holdouts. He said they better get on board with this or else there would be consequences. Kira, you can imagine that same threat will now hold for House Republicans as well.
Yeah. All right, Jay, Karen, thanks so much, guys. So one-stop shop to deportation surrounded by alligators and pythons. That's how the Trump administration is describing the president's new detention center in Florida. The Everglades, well, it's expanding his immigration crackdown. Today, Trump got an up-close look at the controversial facility, telling ABC News that what we're seeing could become the new standard for immigration in America.
They have a lot of bodyguards, a lot of cops, so that in the form of alligators, you don't have to pay them so much. But I wouldn't want to run through the Everglades for long. We'll keep people where they're supposed to be. This is a very important thing. We're setting records at the board. You know, we had no people come through last month. Zero, no people. But we're going to keep it that way.
I think this is a model, but we need other states to step up.
Well, once an abandoned airfield in the Everglades there, the land is now filled with white tents, transformed into a makeshift prison that could hold up to 5,000 detainees. Immigration advocates condemning the move as environmental groups and Native Americans call for the land to be protected. My next guest knows the immigration system inside and out, working as Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security under the Biden administration. Marcia Espinosa joins me now. Marcia, you worked at DHS. What do you make of this facility and how it's going to operate?
Well, this just looks like political theater. It's another one of Trump's reality TV ideas.
Please come over
here.
here.
It's not practical when it comes to solutions. It doesn't seem like this has the infrastructure that we need to be up to code. It doesn't have air conditioning or plumbing, no hurricane relief plan, which is crazy in Florida. So if the goal is to enforce immigration effectively, building a camp in the middle of a swamp just doesn't do it. The optics seem to be the point here. The Everglades location, the alligators, this is just, it's about visuals. It's a campaign ad to make headlines, but it's not a smart way to handle human beings with dignity or even meet legal standards here. Also, the way that it was funded is still a question out there on whether the state used funds that were coming through FEMA, which are usually for shelter and services. So this raises red flags here. Was this a legal use of emergency dollars? Was Congress notified? So the lack of transparency is also troubling.
As you talk about the fact that this is inhumane, I do want to point out that DeSantis did come forward saying, "Look, we're using repurposed trailers and tents normally used to help people displaced by natural disasters." Also saying that they're going to be bringing in large portable air conditioning units. But we don't really know exactly how this is going to work. But he's sort of answering, I guess, you with your concerns, but he doesn't address the legal part of things. You say it doesn't meet legal standards. Give me more detail, Marcia.
We don't know yet whether it's going to meet both the legal standards on how they use this money. FEMA provides the states with shelter and services funding that they are required to use for certain things, and this is not one of them. So that raises concerns. But also, ICE has certain standards that it has to keep in place whenever holding people in detention facilities. That's medical care, access to legal counsel. There are a whole host of things that they are required to do. And we're not sure if this facility, this tent facility that was only put up in a matter of 8 days, will meet those criteria. This seems to be like a total distraction by the Trump administration to focus on theatrics here, and take away from the fact that they really haven't met their enforcement goals, they haven't met their deportation goals. It's just taking away from the serious policy making that actually needs to happen here.
Got it. And we do have a data team, as you know, with our ABC-owned television stations, and it found that a recent shift toward the administration arresting migrants with no criminal convictions is actually taking place. But Trump campaigned on going after the worst of the worst. So I guess, how is the administration, what type of people are we going to actually see in this facility, or do we not really know?
We don't yet really know. In fact, we don't know what type of people that they have arrested and deported. They haven't released all of that data. They've released some, but not all. And they did campaign on going after the worst of the worst, criminals, murderers, rapists. But what we've actually seen is that they're going after the numbers. So basically quantity over quality here, for a lack of a better way of saying that. So they're picking up what's called collateral arrest, which means when ICE goes after
say your prayers.
other people who just happen to be there, they arrest everyone. And they're doing this to basically pump up their numbers. Whereas in contrast, what we did in previous administrations, both Obama and the Biden administrations, is actually go after the worst of the worst and use those resources, which are limited, to go after the truly heinous individuals that need to be deported first. Not the grandmas taking care of kids at home, but those people who have committed felons.
All right. Well, we'll stay on the story, try and work as many details as we can. Appreciate your insight, Marcia. Good to see you. Shut it down. That's the message more than 138 groups are sending about the U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation now. The UN Relief and Works Agency calling the organization an abomination, saying Gaza has gone from 408 distribution points to 4 militarized distribution sites.
Wow. This place is so romantic.
Then you get to enjoy with us.
Oh, yeah.
You are a lucky
Israeli
man.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shifting his focus, however, to getting back to the hostages being held by Hamas as he prepares to meet President Trump here in Washington next week. Foreign correspondent Tom Superbird joining me now from Tel Aviv. So, Tom, what more do we know about the calls to end the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and what are all these aid groups proposing to take its place?
Yeah, well, they want to go back to the old system, and they want to go back to the system where effectively the UN and other aid agencies truck in larger amounts of aid, and then they're in charge of the distribution. The problem Israel had with that scheme is that they alleged that Hamas was basically seizing the majority of that aid. Aid agencies say there isn't evidence for that. But I was on the briefing earlier, Kira, with these aid agencies, and they gave a damning assessment of this new scheme run by this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, as it's called. It's effectively an American group. It's doing Israel's work at distributing aid in a very restricted way, 3 tightly controlled zones.
Care to
And
take
the
a
aid
cruise?
agencies say it's a politically run scheme. They say it breaks all of the fundamental principles that have guided the distribution of humanitarian aid through the decades in conflict zones. And they say, it is putting people at risk. There have been multiple incidents at these sites over the last 5 weeks since it was set up, where the IDF has admitted its troops have opened fire, warning shots on most occasions towards Palestinians who they say have veered off these strictly controlled routes towards the distribution sites themselves. But look, we've also spoken today to an American doctor. He's in Gaza right now, Mohammed Fadlallah. He's a doctor working for Doctors Without Borders, and he's seen and treated casualties who he says have come directly from these distribution sites, and he's treated them for gunshot wounds. Take a listen to him.
I'm glad you asked. Imagine a situation and a scenario where you've been under blockade now for months and weeks and months, and you're seeing that your family is consistently not getting enough to eat. You're not having your meals that you're consistently getting. And then on top of that, there are these aid sites that turn into killing fields.
Well, look, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, Kira, says they have distributed tens of millions of meals in the last 5 weeks. And look, they say that, that the scheme isn't perfect, but they are working to improve it.
Hey, who's up for a bite?
All right, Tom Berg's there in Tel Aviv for us. Tom, thank you. Straight ahead, pleading guilty and avoiding the death penalty. My victims' families are outraged at a surprise plea deal proposed in the Idaho student murder case. And verdict watch in the Sean Diddy Combs trial as the jury sends the judge a note asking, will you please
Splendid. Where are we off to?
babysitting deliberations in a disarray. Next.
Still searching for a bra you love? At NYX, we're designing bras you never want to take off. Like the Revolution bra, the ultimate and all-day wire-free comfort. Or the Wing Woman, with smoothing that prevents side and back spillage. Want an underwire bra that feels amazing? The all-new Free Flex has lift and shape that moves with you. Getting into a NYX bra is so easy. With sizes for every body, find a bra you'll love at NYX.com.
Fantastic. Call when you need a ride back.
Huh?
It's nice to not have to kill anything. Welcome back. Will you be requiring a room?
It could crash right here.
Ditto.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news, ABC News Live. Breaking news, exclusives, live reporting. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
So glad you're streaming with us. A shocking twist to a nearly 3-year saga. Prosecutors say that Brian Koberger, the accused murderer in the 2022 Idaho student killings, accepted a plea deal yesterday, just a month before his trial was expected to begin. Now, some of the victims' families say justice is not being served.
I swear, half your photos are selfies.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry.
Alex, what's been the reaction?
Well, the family members aren't happy about this, Kira, that this has gone on for so long. They wanted a trial to better understand why these murders happened, where the murder weapon is or was, and how the whole thing unfolded. And a lot of that they may not get answers for now. They want him to get the death penalty. At least Kaylee Gonzalez's family, her family wanted him to get the ultimate punishment, which is a firing squad here in Idaho. Steve Gonzalez telling us this.
We need a miracle.
Morning.
Back at ya.
Families before I dive into this conversation right now, saying, "What can we do, Steve? What can you do?" I said, "I'm hoping for a miracle. I'm hoping to reach out to people that care and love our community."
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
And we'll make that phone call to the people who are in positions of power, can call up the judge and say, "We're not going to accept this. This is
So, care to take a cruise?
So, Kira, they want to come into court tomorrow and somehow convince the judge not to go forward with this plea deal. Both sides have agreed to it. The judge has to agree to it as well. But on the side of prosecutors, they get a conviction without any chance of an appeal. If this were to go to a trial and in front of a jury, there could be years and years of appeals that could go on for a very long time. On the side of Brian Koberger, he avoids getting the death penalty. They've come to this agreement, but it'll be up to a judge tomorrow when Koberger comes into this courthouse.
So, Sean, are you surprised by this potential outcome?
I'm not surprised, and I'll tell you why. Because when we look at what the prosecution's job is, it's to secure a conviction. The family wants answers, so they're looking for a trial, but the prosecutor's goal is for that conviction. And we know that death penalty cases typically are long, and jurors have very strong feelings about the death penalty. So prosecutors are going to look at this as a win because they have secured the conviction. He will be behind bars for consecutive life sentences, even though there is no trial.
So, Alex, what happens next?
Well, tomorrow there's going to be this change of plea hearing where we expect Brian Koberger to come in and say he is changing his plea to guilty. That's if he does what we expect him to do. He hasn't signed anything yet. He hasn't put anything legally in process yet except coming to this agreement. He has to come in and do it in front of the judge, make it official, and actually put in that guilty plea tomorrow. And assuming that he does that, then there'll be a sentencing later in July, which does the judge go along with the 4 consecutive terms and the 10 years for burglary. That would be up to the judge as part of this whole deal with prosecutors. But we wait for him to come in person tomorrow. We don't, Kira, think that he is going to explain where the murder weapon is or what his motive was. He could potentially, but unlikely that he's going to have to explain any of that. It'll just be changing it to guilty, Your Honor, and then setting a sentencing date and acknowledging that he understands what admitting to all of these crimes.
Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure.
Sean, if the plea deal holds, Koberger will serve 4 consecutive life sentences. Is that a win for the prosecution?
It absolutely is, because they've secured the conviction, and it's not going to go up on appeal.
Well,
so they
look
know
who
that
it
this will not be
is.
dragged out. And as far as they're concerned, this is a win
Made
on
it
their
back in one
behalf.
piece,
Now,
eh?
for the families, it's not a win because the family was looking for answers, and we do understand that they are seeking that. And without a trial, they are not likely to get these answers. But it won't be confirmed until the
Feeling
judge
a bit
accepts
peckish,
it.
lads?
So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
I can
All right,
recommend
tracking it
anything
now.
on the
Shauna,
menu.
thank you both.
Sure thing, I'll fix it straight away.
Well, it's verdict watch for the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial. The jurors just sent their 5th note to the judge asking to review transcripts of testimony from Cassie Ventura and Daniel Phillip, one of the alleged escorts involved in one of those so-called freak-offs. It comes after jurors sent a note yesterday saying they were concerned that juror 25 was unable to understand the law. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges and denies any wrongdoing. Let's bring back our legal contributor and criminal defense attorney, Shauna Loy. So, Shauna, what do you make of today's developments?
it seems here as though they're working their way down the jury verdict form, and they are now looking at the trafficking charge. We do have to remember that the trafficking charge was by force or coercion. So when we look at the things that they're asking for, it seems as though they're examining that very element. We know that prosecutors in their closing statement, they said that you guys only need to unanimously agree on one instance. And the instance that Comey focused on was the Intercontinental incident. And so we see them asking for the video. We see them asking for the transcript and for the information.
And just to be clear on the Medicaid cut, you promised not to cut Medicaid, that this is all just targeting waste, fraud, and abuse. Are you saying that the estimated 11.8 million people who will lose their health coverage, that is all waste, fraud, and abuse?
Face down and down. Dana. Okay, so you ignore him? I'm interested in how he say, oh, we know what goes on. And yet, we're working with it, did all this, gave him the social security and address and phone number, birthday, and now you telling us he ain't no good? Bitch, which one is it? I think so. Somebody man. Yeah, keep defending them. Why America go? America. Defend them. God daggone America. Defender. Defender.
So the fact that he's retiring, I don't think that party is really going to hold a sleep, and that we'll be able to feel someone strong in the general in a year and a half from now.
I know you're a lobbyist now, but do you miss being in the mix? In these sort of situations.
If you would ask me at 4 o'clock this morning, I would say no. If you would ask me right now, after the Senate did a really good job of passing the bill, yeah, it's really fun to be up there and to be a part of just the energy and to see lawmakers frustrated, angry, happy, crying, happy, excited, terrified, all at the same time. It's a wonderful thing.
It's citizen is what we're calling it.
Yeah.
I appreciate your insight. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back.
Thanks, Karen.
All right.
You're always welcome here.
Deportation surrounded by alligators and pythons. That's how the Trump administration describes the president's new detention center as he expands his immigration crackdown.
Splendid. Where are we off to?
Trump got an up close and controversial look at the facility that's raising a lot of eyebrows and creating a lot of conversation. We got
Let's enjoy this last time.
ABC News that what we're seeing could become
Before we go back.
for immigration in America.
We have a lot of bodyguards, a lot of cops, but in the form of alligators, you don't have to pay them so much. But I wouldn't want to run through the Everglades for long. We'll keep people with us, so to speak. It's a very important thing. We're setting records at the board. We have no people come through last 2 months. Zero, no people.
We had piss droplets come down from the white man. He don't like that nigga, so he dropping piss down here. This nasty bitch. Oh yeah, calling on God because ain't no Christians. Saw that motherfucker dropping piss down. Ain't no Christians. White man lynching his piss down through the roof. I hope they kill you. Piss down, white man.
Fantastic. Call when you need a ride back.
Hope they motherfuckers shoot you. Yeah, did you get your piss on the nigga? I hope they shoot your motherfucking pussy spotty ass.
Man, my arms are killing me. Do I dare ask why? Just been pumping some iron, getting them gains.
Yeah, I think this group's only got room for one musclehead.
Then Gladio better step aside, cause these guns shoot to kill.
Better ask that white man what to do before the shooting starts.
This boat or the regalia?
Cause he gonna be going down the highway.
Would be nice if this boat were just as fast, though.
We could always remodel the regalia so it could drive on both land and sea. Best of both worlds.
Good idea.
I think you're forgetting who owns it.
Did you remember to put on sunscreen, Noct?
Yes, Ignis.
Bitch didn't get a nigga right, so they goddamn lynching piss down through the roof. They ain't got enough nigga yet. So they pissing through the goddamn roof. Bitch, you is. Stop pissing through the goddamn roof. Fucking nasty white motherfucker. God protect me from this shit. Nasty white motherfucker. Yes, you is. You nasty demon white man. Get them mosquitoes out that baler jar so they can serve a nice white man purpose with that nigga. Ooh, excuse me, y'all, if that's them damn carpenters. Shit. I get so many goddamn floorboard raisins. I didn't even know. Get them floorboard raisins and them piss drop downs. So I didn't know. I know you don't care, white man. It's just a nigga. Goddamn. You don't care. Putting that shit through the roof. But there go the board back on there.
They were given the heads up that maybe there was going to be some sort of a plea deal offered. There was some discussion, but they said that it was an email on Sunday night saying that it was going to go to Brian Kilburn and that they really didn't have a part in all of this and that they don't like that the death penalty is being brought. They want them to get the death penalty firing squad here in Idaho, pay the price of what he allegedly did. Allegedly, until he changes that plea to guilty. He could tell this his daughter, Kaylee, was killed in the murder. He's telling us this. We need a miracle. We need a help there. I'm literally talking to those fans before I got into this.
Well, he gonna piss a lot because he been shouted at. Special Master been shouted back by the nigga slaves. So he now gonna piss a lot. Special Master got yelled at.
Hang on tight. Right. And we made it. Well done.
They avoid the death penalty. That typically the deal would move forward. 4 consecutive life terms is what the deal would be. 10 more years for burglary. But the judge could decide, no, this doesn't make sense.
You up there with him, you going to jail too, bitch. Sitting there watching it, bitch. You going to jail too.
I think the Republican takes this decision that will ultimately be up to a jury into his own hands. I think with someone who is 28 years old,
They up there getting a good laugh. Bitch, them goddamn boards in that roof. They're getting a good motherfucking laugh on that bitch.
found not guilty. But there also is a downside to the fact that unlike Utah and Oklahoma, where firing squad is an option, we know in
Ain't got to do or say nothing. That shit wouldn't happen to none of y'all parents or grandparents. I ain't got to do or say nothing. You wrong. Period. Putting that goddamn water through the roof. Period. Goddamn make an equivalency. That's what y'all do. Ain't no motherfucking equivalency for putting piss through the roof.
Everything in order. Yep.
Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking racketeering trial.
That nigga.
Deliberating at this hour earlier today.
Shit, when you try that nasty white man shit.
The judge asking
that nigga.
transcripts of testimony from Cassie Ventura and Daniel Phillip, one of the alleged escorts involved in one of those so-called freak-offs Right now, the prosecution and defense are debating what portions of the transcripts to provide to the jury. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges and denies any wrongdoing. Let's bring back our legal.
While he's saying that shit, your child can die.
What do you make of the jury's latest?
Just go home in your coat. While he's saying that shit.
Count one, which is racketeering conspiracy, and it says if you believe he's guilty of that, then move to the predicate act. So just kind of stepping back a little, when they asked for that drug distribution definition, in my mind, it seems like they've already resolved whether or not Sean Combs is guilty of racketeering conspiracy, and now they're looking at one of the predicate acts. Now, I think what's probably even more fearful for the defense is they're not just asking about testimony from Cassie Ventura and one of the escorts in this case. They're asking for the 3 different encounters that involve violence and sex work that the government told the jurors during closing arguments, this is where you should focus, this is where you should look. Sure, you can pick any one of the trafficking instances, but when it comes to the Intercontinental Hotel, the Essex Hotel, and the film festival, these are what the government is saying are their strongest arguments, and that's exactly the testimony and the transcript that the jurors are focusing in on in this question.
Got it. So does the jury's question, asking for clarification about the drug allegations, indicate, you think, in any way how they may be thinking?
Whatever that goddamn white man water come down. What's so confusing?
Right? The first question is, do you believe that Sean Combs is guilty or not guilty of racketeering conspiracy?
That Fox News water hit me.
Charges and not even think about the predicate acts. But if you look at the drug distribution, it's confusing ones. The question they asked is, if an individual asks for the drugs, is it still drug distribution if you give it to them?
So Knox,
these boards back in
place.
place.
Whatever catches my eye. But what do you want to see?
The arson, the bribery, many of the other 8 or so predicate acts.
How about more shots of Gladio?
So if they're
Gotcha.
going in order, and that's
I'll see what
big
I can do.
is they can go in any order they want. It appears they've already resolved the issue as to whether or not it's racketeering conspiracy, and now looking at the predicate acts.
All right, Brian Buckmeyer, appreciate you, Brian. Thank you. Straight ahead, everything's bigger in Texas, even the coin flips, the local election. Well, they came down to heads or tails. Do the lawmakers feel lucky?
Was it a true time?
What's the deal? Read? Where can I get a great deal on what I'm just dying to buy?
It would be easy to get somebody to change this up.
All the exclusive, busiest celebrity good stuff. Deals and steals with amazing savings and the coolest.
Whatever you think your white man piss gonna get done, Jacob and Frederick.
The restrictions of the road. How does she do it?
Boo! Put that roof back together. Cause whatever you think the white man piss gonna do down here.
Curious what she meant by a car like the Regalia.
Maybe Dad had a spare? If he drove the
Boo,
car
put the roof back together.
probably needed one.
Can I interest you in some shopping?
Cause there's all that piss coming through down here.
Howdy.
So close that roof back up. If you would, white man. Close that goddamn shit back up.
I'll get right on it.
Cause I don't want that shit coming down on me.
Barbara Walters.
You ruin a good lynching day like this? Oh, you so right.
Where's the shopping bags?
I got them stored over here.
Just whatever the white man can get away with for 700 years, bitch. Whatever the white man evil can get away with ain't been no excuse. Just another nigga.
In a tie, so a coin toss
You shit. You shit. Because you didn't get the lynch? Yeah, goddamn. He's autistic. Ain't nowhere for a nigga to go, Mexican.
In this case, a coin flip.
The winner will be the candidate who wins the
Well, here we are.
Actually means something. Now, it's official. That's one person voting either way, either not showing up or an extra person showing up. We would have avoided all of this and we would have had a clear winner. So our votes count.
And our thanks to Tom Abrams from our ABC station there in Houston. The news never stops, neither do we. You can find us anywhere you stream live news. And if you're on the go, we are on the ABC News app and abcnews.com too. I'm Kira Phillips. Glad you're streaming with us. A lot more news up next. Don't go far.
Looking for me.
Whatever the white man get away with, bitch.
Is the best Pixar movie in years.
This is the most beautiful place I've ever seen.
This is the bathroom.
Huh.
Ready to leave the road behind?
Born ready.
Disney and Pixar's Ellie upgraded PG, now playing for 15 years. What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
You're part of an operation. So combat operations came in different directions. So we have a couple loaded and ready to go. We've got a home right here involved in flames. The scene here, apocalyptic. How important it made to USA. Bring one. I appreciate you. I am David. I'm David Muir. You do every night.
Listen to World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
You ought to have no white men attacking.
ABC News Live because the news never stops.
You're watching America's most news. ABC News Live. Breaking news, exclusives, and live reporting across the globe. Keep streaming with ABC News Live. David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, the most watched newscast in America, and honored with the Emmy Award.
Whoa.
Outstanding live news program. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast.
I've never seen that news go to the mainstream. Thousands. It's a serial killer case.
This killer, he's a dumber. You've never heard of him.
More and more men are going missing, and then the lead broke the case open.
They discovered the farm. The whole place was so bizarre. There were mannequins, almost like it was the club.
They weren't just another fighting with Silicon Valley too, the World Trade Center.
People live to tell about their involvement with the serial killer. Everything we know about this case comes from you. Absolutely.
I can't do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Never before a face-to-face interview with a camera.
Why now?
Let me ask you, am I the evil culprit, the accomplice? I'd like to know how the audience views me.
The Fox Hollow Murders, the Graft of a Serial Killer. Only on Hulu.
Right now on ABC News Live, one step closer to Trump's massive spending bill becoming law. J.D. Vance breaking a tie in the Senate after 2 all-nighters, but it's not over yet. Snakes, gators, and nearly $500 million price tag. President Trump touts the opening of the so-called alligator Alcatraz, how it'll work, and the people who are already pushing back. And heads or tails, Texas election deadlocked and decided by a coin flip. Does your lawmaker feel lucky? ABC News Live starts right now. Afternoon drama in D.C. as the Senate barely passes the massive Republican spending plan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. After 3 GOP defections, Vice President J.D. Vance breaking a 50-50 tie on the Senate floor.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
That vote sends President Trump's legislative agenda now back to the House for approval. The bill could still face issues there because of Medicaid cuts and concerns about the national debt, though. You'll remember the House originally passed the measure by just 1 vote back in May. Our Jay O'Brien is up on the Hill, along with White House correspondent Karen Travers. All right, Jay, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski cast a key vote for this bill after she got some big concessions for her state. What more can you tell us about how the Senate GOP got this across the finish line?
Yeah, she was able to double a rural hospital fund that was there to help states like hers and others deal with the Medicaid cuts and the changes to Medicaid's funding mechanism that is inside this bill. And she was able to get essentially a carve-out to protect her state from some of the worst cuts.
Oh, yeah!
It doesn't just apply to her state, it applies to others as well that have a certain percentage of payment errors. But it was really Lisa Murkowski leading the charge here in trying to protect Alaska from some of the impacts of this bill. She told our John Parkinson not long ago, quote, that she struggled mightily with the bill's impact on the most vulnerable in this country, and that her goal was, again, to try to stave off its impact, add into that rural health care fund, and try to stave off some of the SNAP impacts as well. We've been asking some of our Senate colleagues how they feel about the concessions that she got. Do they believe it's fair to the overall process here? Lindsey Graham said it was very smart. He said that Liz Murkowski was focused intensely on how this bill would impact Alaska. And then there were other senators who said that they don't believe this is unfair because it was done overnight in the Senate with all senators weighing in one way or the other. Although the reality here is, Kira, this bill got over the goal line because of backroom deals largely struck with Murkowski. But it underscores the problem that Mike Johnson is facing now in the House, because as this bill gets kicked over the House, there's obviously been this steady stream of hardline Republicans who are balking at what they say are the rewrites in the Senate that will raise the price tag of this bill. It puts Mike Johnson in a tough spot. If everyone shows up and everyone is voting, he can only afford to lose 3 votes, and he can't change various aspects of this bill to get those holdouts back on board the way Johnson could do with Murkowski, unless he wanted to send this back to the Senate and essentially go back to the drawing board here.
Okay, let's talk about a backroom deal. Just to be clear, Senator Murkowski was concerned about Medicaid cuts, but voted yes because her home state of Alaska got a carve-out. So she's okay with Medicaid cuts as long as it doesn't impact her.
In some ways, yes. I mean, what she's done here is add in, she's doubled this rural hospital fund from 25 to 50 billion. This is a fund that will try to offset the impact that some of these Medicaid cuts would have on rural hospitals. Josh Hawley was concerned about this, on and on and on. But to your point, she was able to extract those after withholding her vote because John Thune couldn't afford to lose her. He already had 3 Republican no votes from Rand Paul, who was concerned about some of the fiscal issues of this bill, not the least of which is that it raises the debt ceiling, to Tom Tillis, who wanted to go back to the original House version of this legislation because he believed it cut too much.
Everything in order.
Susan Collins had similar concerns as well. So Murkowski was able to use that leverage, being that 4th vote that if she had gone in the other direction would have tanked this bill to get it more in line with her way of thinking. But then she told our John Parkins, and by the way, Kira, that does she like everything in this bill? She said, quote, absolutely not. But she got it more in the direction of what she wanted.
So, Karen, what are we hearing?
Oh, y'all white folks up there. Goddamn celebrity team.
Big deal for this White House. This is so many campaign promises for the president. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax cuts from 2017 extended.
That's sad, because you can't let Festa see it. It's all celebrity.
They got something special?
A safe place to spend the night? The demons will be coming out any minute.
He put that self-imposed artificial deadline of July 4th to get it done.
As long as we keep moving, we'll be fine.
Aww. But how can you be sure?
What? The monsters got you scared?
Nah. Monsters don't scare me. I ride with one every day.
You want to run that by me again?
We need to replenish our supply of curatives.
Gotcha.
No, we don't. Issue with some of the numbers. Take a listen to what he had to tell her.
And just to be clear on the Medicaid cuts, you promised not to cut Medicaid, said this is all just targeting waste, fraud, and abuse. Are you saying that the estimated 11.8 million people who could lose their health coverage
and get this night, but it's too late.
I'm saying it's going to be a very much smaller number than that, and that number will be waste, fraud, and abuse. And if you look, they took a much more liberal stance on the Medicaid situation than they could have.
Everything in order.
Yep.
Where his estimate was coming for the much smaller number on that. They take an issue with the Congressional Budget Office saying that this would add $3.3 trillion to the debt over the next 10 years. But Kira, you know, this is something that Tom Tillis, Jay was mentioning in there, has said that this is going to be a broken promise by this president that Republican lawmakers are now going to have to explain.
I'm paying the cost with nigga talking back with all this piss coming through my roof. This nasty bitch up here.
My next guest knows exactly how tough it can be to navigate the Hill with a slim majority. Mark Bednar's former
No, I ain't got no shotgun either. Fucking nasty white man is all I got.
Okay, I just want to follow what Jay was talking about with Lisa Murkowski and these backroom deals that are made in times like this, right, to get things over the finish line. You've been in the room for the wheeling and dealing. You know, tell us how it goes down. What is it like?
Well, you can kind of see this happening because the House.
You die first, nasty piss white man.
But then each individual senator, they want to have their own fingerprints on the bill as well. And so to see this happening at the kind of last minute here, that should not be a surprise to anybody. And if anything, this should be a strong kudos to both the Senate Majority Leader Thiel, but also President Trump for basically foisting a deadline of July 4th onto the House and Senate.
I mean, they pulled 2 all-nighters to get to this point. Does it get ugly? Do they start, you know, ordering the pizza and drinking lots of caffeine, and you know, do they battle it out? I mean, how intense does it get?
And that's where leverage really starts to get ratcheted up, because as you see, like they're now going on recess, those senators that want
Yeah. Because you're white police. But it's going to happen anyway.
But yeah, the negotiation to be in the cauldron, to be in the boiler, that's where the decisions actually get made. If there's not a deadline, if there's not any forcing mechanisms, Congress won't get anything done. And this was another example where basically being under the spotlight and having to negotiate.
You keep saying that, tell the carpenters. That motherfucking shit. I want to hear that shit.
But as we know, Elon Musk, the bill's not sitting well with him. He says now that he's going to primary anyone who votes for it. Let's take a look at what our members asked President Trump about his former bestie.
Elon Musk is ripping into this bill again. Are you concerned that Republicans are going to be swayed by Musk and his money?
Yeah, how come we didn't save that up front?
Shouldn't be playing that game with me. Okay, how about Republicans? Should they be afraid of Elon
It's
Musk?
real pretty here at night, and yet, by all accounts, it pales in comparison to old Tisha. Seriously?
Wields in terms of influence within the House. He's the most popular Republican in the country. He's the leader of our party, and this is his signature legislative goal. So he's going to really ratchet up the pressure on members who might feel that they don't really want to be a part of it, but he's going to make sure that this bill moves on.
So you still think President Trump, his power far exceeds anything Elon Musk could say or do?
Without a doubt, absolutely.
All right, we saw two vulnerable Republicans, Congressman Don Bacon, also Senator Tom Tillis, who Mary was mentioning when she was they announced
Chickens come home to roost their piss boy
Welcome
chickens.
to Golden Key.
How do you see that? Is that a bad sign for Republicans? And do you think we could see others, like a domino effect?
My tummy's rumbling. First day off in a good while.
Three House Republicans who sits in the seat that Kamala Harris won. So yes, the NRCC, the campaign party, they do have their work.
See what's at the market before I decide on a dish.
That they're going to be able to maintain that seat. North Carolina, with Senator Tillis retiring,
You can't hurt me, bitch.
towards President Trump in subsequent elections. So the fact that he's retiring, I don't think that the party is really going to lose sleep, and that will be able to feel so strong in the general in a year and a half from now.
I know you're a lobbyist now, but do you miss being in the mix in these certain situations?
If you would ask me at 4 o'clock this morning, I would say no. If you would ask me right now, after the Senate did a really good job of passing the bill, yeah, it's really fun to be up there and to be a part of just the energy and to see lawmakers frustrated, angry, happy, crying, happy, excited, terrified, all at the same time. It's a wonderful mix.
It's sleepless in the Senate. So
Get up and eat and go right back to bed.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back.
Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, one-stop shop to deportation surrounded by alligators and pythons. That's how the Trump administration describes the president's new detention center as he expands his immigration crackdown in the Florida Everglades. Today, Trump got an up-close and controversial look at the facility that's raising a lot of eyebrows and creating a lot of conversation. We got apparently someone telling ABC News that what we're seeing could become the new standard for immigration in America.
We have a lot of bodyguards, a lot of cops, but in the form of alligators, they're not defend so much. But I wouldn't run through the Everglades for long.
There your glades.
Got a pretty nice view
Follow
out on the
down
water.
this path.
I'll say. You can get a good look at the stars without all those city lights getting in the way. You know, fish would be a lot easier to catch if they just stayed in one place.
Where's the thrill in that? Finding the fish is half the fun.
Wouldn't be much sport if they simply sat still.
Immigration advocates condemning the move as environmental groups and Native Americans are calling for the land to be protected. Our Victor Kendo is there in South Florida with the latest. Victor.
We're just outside the new migrant detention facility, deep in the heart of the Florida Everglades. There is the entrance just behind us here. You might still hear some of the protesters. So-called alligator Alcatraz sits on a remote airstrip, so Air Force One was able to land right here. President Trump meeting with state and local officials on the ground. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and Governor Ron DeSantis here as well. Trump taking tours around the facility, now lined with tents and trailers with the capacity to hold 5,000 migrants. He then participated in a roundtable discussion. Trump
Did you miss the piss coming down, bitch? By the motherfucker fucking you?
Louisiana and Alabama are looking into similar facilities. Here in Florida,
Shock! Put that board back in place there. Y'all through with y'all, nigga? Them boards back on there.
Blip around here. I think this radar might be broken.
Not to be rude, but I think it simply means there aren't any fish nearby.
wildlife like gators and pythons. And all of this comes as the administration ramps up its deportation efforts.
Hey, lamp ain't gonna help that shit. You giving them black buckle. That shit ain't gonna help shit. The nasty demon bitch. They still got the motive. Your nigger lynching ain't free. That shit costs blackmail.
All right, Victor, thank you. Straight ahead, pleading guilty and avoiding the death penalty. Why victims' families are outraged.
You know, fish would be a lot easier to catch if they
Murder case. And
stayed in one place.
Where's the thrill in that? Finding the fish is half the fun.
Wouldn't be much sport if they simply sat still. Sure you're all right sailing at night?
Yeah, the sea breeze will keep me awake.
I don't give a fuck, long as he putting down piss. White man put it down, he can live with the results.
Got a pretty nice view out on the water.
I'll say. You can get a good look at the stars without all those city lights getting in the way. Hang on tight. And we made it.
Not bad.
Oh, we will. Yeah. It just rained all the same time. Something white man power of the hack. And that's why we broadcast. Y'all can see this shit is mold and what you talking about. I'm not going out in the rain. You finna go figure me out? Shit, all I ain't getting close. And so you put that in the right.
Greetings. Will you be staying with us? Could crash right here.
Shocking twist to a nearly 3
Y'all
years
hear?
saga. Prosecutors say Brian Koberger, the accused murderer of the 2022 Idaho student killings,
It's up there going crazy.
yesterday, just a month before his trial was expected to begin. Now, some of the victims' families say justice is not
Hollering and shit.
Joining me now are Alex Stone. He's in Boise, Idaho, along with our legal contributor.
All that get your nigga lynching.
To this plea deal.
And well, a number of the family members here are saying that they feel like that they were not consulted in this and that they should have been brought more into it. Last Friday, we understand that they were given the heads up that maybe there was going to be some sort of a plea deal offered. There was some
You hear him? Because this is the bullshit a man can go through. And he's going to be killed for it. He's still talking about love and shit. He going to be killed for that shit. This stupid motherfucker don't understand, no. So he gonna be killed.
His daughter, Kaylee, was killed in the murders. He's telling us this.
It ain't a murder. Defend yourself against a white man pissing through the roof.
Conversation right now. Saying, what can we do, Steve? What can you do? I said,
Damn bitch.
hoping to reach out to people that care and love our community.
It's not. It's not.
To the people who can.
That's more important than God.
Call up the judge and say, we're not going to accept this. This is unacceptable.
There's no indication that the judge is not going to go ahead with this. It is a deal between prosecutors. They get a conviction. There won't be years of appeals coming down the line. The defense, they avoid the death penalty. They typically, the deal would move forward. 4 consecutive life terms is what the deal would be. 10 more years for burglary. But the judge could decide, no, this doesn't make sense. And he hears all of the victims and decides tomorrow during a hearing to do something else. But the family members do plan to be here tomorrow, Kira.
All right, well, Brian, what do you think, or why do you think Koberger decided to finally take this deal?
I think for Goldberger, he takes this decision that would ultimately be up to a jury into his own hand. I think with someone who I think is like 28 years old, 4 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years, he knows exactly where and how he is going to spend the rest of his life until that comes to an end. When it comes to going to trial, there is, yes, the upside of maybe he is found not guilty, but there also is a downside to the fact that unlike Utah and Oklahoma, where firing squad is an option, we know in Idaho that the firing squad is the now primary or main way in which an individual will be put to death. And that I can see anyone being terrified about and trying to avoid in any way, shape, or form. We also see that the autism spectrum disorder, which the defense tried to argue should alleviate or remove him from the death penalty, didn't work. So maybe this is his last attempt to try to avoid the death penalty.
All right, Alex, Brian, thanks, guys. Well, the jury for the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial is still deliberating at this hour. Earlier today, jurors just sent their 5th note to the judge asking to review transcripts of testimony from Cassie Ventura and Daniel Phillip, one of the alleged escorts involved in one of those so-called freak-offs. Right now, the prosecution and defense are debating what portions of the transcripts to provide to the jury. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges and denies any wrongdoing. Let's bring back our lead contributor and trial attorney, Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, what do you make of the jury's latest request for transcripts?
So if you look at the verdict form, you have count 1, which is racketeering and conspiracy, and it says if you believe he's guilty of that, then move to the predicate act. So just kind of stepping back a little, when they asked for that drug distribution definition, in my mind, it seems like they've already resolved whether or not Sean Combs is guilty of racketeering and conspiracy, and now they're looking at one of the predicate acts. Now, I think what's probably even more fearful for the defense is they're not just asking about testimony from Cassie Ventura and one of the escorts in this case. They're asking for the 3 different encounters that involve violence and sex work that the government told the jurors during the closing arguments. This is where you should focus. This is where you should look. Sure, you can pick any one of the trafficking instances, but when it comes to the Intercontinental Hotel, the Essex Hotel, and the film festival, these are what the government is saying are their strongest arguments, and that's exactly the testimony and the transcripts that the jurors are focusing in on in this question.
Got it. So does the jury's question, asking for clarification about the drug allegations, indicate you think in any way how they may be thinking?
Yeah, so again, if you go back to the verdict form, right, the first question is, do you believe that Sean Combs is guilty or not guilty of racketeering conspiracy? If no, because this is the next charge, and now you think about the predicate acts. But if you look at the drug distribution, which I think probably is one of the more confusing ones, the question they asked is, if an individual asks for the drugs, is it still drug distribution if you give it to them? The answer is yes. But if you're asking that question, that means you've already gone past the arson, the bribery, many of the other 8 or so predicate acts until you get to the drug distribution. So if they're going in order, that's a big if, because they can go in any order they want, it appears they've already resolved the issue as to whether or not it's racketeering conspiracy, and now looking at the predicate acts.
All right, Brian Buckmeyer, appreciate you, Brian. Thank you. Straight ahead, everything's bigger in Texas, even the coin flips, the local election. Well, they came down to heads or tails. Do the lawmakers feel lucky?
The aftermath. See what's happening in Mexico. Oh, you can save this, because y'all in the house. Save. Why are you taking pictures of the back of the head? It's saved. And let's get out of here. See him? Yeah, they're close by. And that's